Beneath the ancient streets of Rome lies a labyrinth that has swallowed centuries whole. 6 million bodies rest in tunnels that stretch for hundreds of miles through volcanic rock, creating a shadow city that mirrors the empire above. But the catacombs hold more than bones and burial chambers. They guard secrets that archaeologists are only beginning to uncover. Mysteries that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the Eternal City. Tonight, we're descending into the darkness to explore 5 extraordinary enigmas buried beneath Rome's most famous underground cemetery. From lost Christian treasures to pagan rituals that survived in secret. From forgotten chambers that defy explanation to discoveries that challenge the very foundations of Roman history. These aren't the tourist-friendly sections you might visit on a guided tour. These are the forbidden depths where modern explorers have stumbled upon things that were meant to stay buried forever. I'm about to take you into places where archaeologists have found evidence of practices that contradict official church records, where medieval maps show chambers that supposedly don't exist, and where recent excavations have uncovered artifacts that shouldn't be possible given what we know about ancient Rome. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why the Vatican has restricted access to certain sections of these tunnels and why some discoveries remain classified to this day. But before we venture into the shadows, let me give you some context that will make what comes next even more unsettling. The Roman catacombs weren't just burial sites. They were entire underground communities where people lived, worshipped, and died in ways that history books have glossed over. The network spans an area larger than Manhattan, with multiple levels that descend deeper into the earth than most people realize. Some tunnels connect to natural cave systems that predate Roman civilization by thousands of years. Others lead to chambers that show signs of construction techniques unknown to Roman engineers. What makes these mysteries particularly compelling is that they're not ancient legends or folklore. These are real discoveries made by credentialed archaeologists using modern equipment. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed massive voids behind walls that were sealed centuries ago. Chemical analysis of bones has shown evidence of rituals that don't match any known Christian or pagan practices. Carbon dating has produced results that place certain artifacts hundreds of years before they should theoretically exist. The first mystery we need to examine involves what archaeologists are calling the Chamber of Impossible Frescoes. In 1978, a maintenance crew working on the electrical systems in the catacomb of San Callisto broke through what they thought was a standard wall. Instead, they discovered a perfectly preserved room covered in paintings that depict events from Christian history with one crucial problem. The artwork shows scenes from the lives of saints who wouldn't be born for another 3 centuries after the frescoes were painted. The Vatican immediately sealed the chamber and classified all documentation related to its discovery. But before they could control the information completely, several photographs were smuggled out by workers who understood the significance of what they'd found. These images show detailed murals of St. Francis of Assisi preaching to birds, St. Joan of Arc in armor, and other medieval saints rendered in a distinctly Roman artistic style. The pigments have been tested and confirmed to be authentic to the 2nd century. yet the subjects they depict lived in the 13th and 15th centuries. Dr. Maria Castellano, who was part of the original archaeological team, managed to document 12 separate anachronistic scenes before Vatican officials removed her from the site. Her notes, which were later leaked to academic journals, describe paintings that seem to show prophetic knowledge of future Christian history. One fresco depicts a figure that matches descriptions of St. Patrick driving snakes from Ireland, complete with Celtic symbols that wouldn't appear in Roman art for another 200 years. The official explanation from church authorities is that medieval artists somehow gained access to the chamber and painted over earlier Roman artwork. But this theory falls apart under scientific scrutiny. The paint layers show no evidence of being applied over existing frescoes. The brushwork demonstrates consistent techniques throughout, suggesting a single artistic period. Most damning of all, the plaster beneath the paintings contains only volcanic ash that can date to the 2nd century, meaning the wall itself was sealed before medieval artists could have accessed it. The second mystery takes us even deeper into the tunnels, to a section called the Labyrinth of Echoes. This network of chambers was discovered in 1994 when construction work for a new subway line accidentally broke through the catacomb ceiling. What workers found defied explanation. The chambers contained acoustic properties that amplify and distort sound in ways that modern engineers struggle to understand. When you speak in certain locations within the labyrinth, your voice returns as multiple overlapping echoes that seem to carry different words entirely. Recordings made in these chambers have captured voices speaking in languages that linguistic experts cannot identify. Some recordings contain what sound like conversations between multiple people, even when only one person was present during the recording session. The acoustic anomalies aren't random. They follow specific patterns that suggest deliberate engineering. Certain phrases, when spoken in Latin, produce harmonic resonances that create almost musical effects. Other combinations of words generate discordant sounds that are physically uncomfortable to hear. It's as if the chambers were designed to respond to specific vocalizations. But the purpose behind this acoustic engineering remains completely unknown. Dr. Alessandro Moretti, a sound engineer who studied the labyrinth extensively before Vatican restrictions limited access, documented over 40 distinct echo patterns. His research suggests that the chambers might have been used for some form of acoustic communication system, possibly allowing messages to be transmitted between different levels of the catacombs. But this raises troubling questions about who built such a sophisticated system and why Roman historical records contain no mention of these advanced acoustic techniques. Even more unsettling are the recordings that capture sounds when no one is present in the chambers. Motion-activated equipment has documented footsteps, whispered conversations, and what sounds like chanting in thales. These empty tunnels aren't the typical settling sounds you'd expect from ancient stonework. They're clearly human voices speaking words that analysis suggests might be prayers or incantations in a dialect that predates classical Latin. The third mystery leads us to what researchers have dubbed the repository of forbidden texts. In 2003, ground-penetrating radar detected a sealed chamber beneath the catacomb of Priscilla that appeared to contain organized shelving systems. When archaeologists finally gained access through a carefully planned excavation, they discovered something that challenged fundamental assumptions about early Christian literacy and record-keeping. The chamber contained over 300 scrolls and codices, preserved in conditions so perfect that many could still be unrolled and read. But the content of these texts created an immediate crisis for Vatican scholars. The documents included detailed accounts of Christian practices that directly contradicted official church doctrine, descriptions of female bishops and married priests, and theological debates that supposedly never occurred according to historical records. Most disturbing were the texts that appeared to be official Roman administrative documents detailing negotiations between early Christian leaders and pagan priests. These agreements outlined shared temples, combined rituals, and theological compromises that suggest early Christianity was far more syncretic than anyone had imagined. One document written in both Latin and Greek describes a formal treaty between Christian elders and worshippers of Mithras that established shared burial rites in the catacombs. The Vatican's response was swift and absolute. The chamber was resealed, the texts were removed to undisclosed locations, and all researchers involved were required to sign comprehensive non-disclosure agreements. But fragments of translations had already been shared among academic circles, creating a shadow literature of forbidden knowledge that continues to circulate among scholars willing to risk their careers for historical truth. Dr. Elena Rossi, a paleographer who spent 6 months analyzing the texts before they were confiscated, managed to preserve detailed notes on 12 of the most significant documents. Her hidden research reveals references to Christian communities practicing forms of worship that incorporated elements from mystery religions, goddess cults, and philosophical schools that were supposedly incompatible with early Christian beliefs. One text describes a ritual combining Christian baptism with Mithraic blood ceremonies, conducted in the deepest levels of the catacombs with the full knowledge of both religious hierarchies. The fourth mystery involves the network of impossible connections. Recent mapping projects using advanced laser scanning technology have revealed that the catacombs connect to structures and tunnels that extend far beyond their supposed boundaries. These connections lead to chambers beneath buildings that were constructed centuries after the catacombs were supposedly sealed, suggesting that the underground network remained active and expanded long after official histories claim it was abandoned. Some discovered passages connect of these newly to medieval churches, Renaissance palaces, and even modern government buildings. The implications are staggering. If these connections were deliberately constructed, it figures throughout means that powerful Roman history maintained secret access to the catacombs for purposes that have never been documented. If they occurred naturally through geological processes, then the underground network is far more extensive and unstable than anyone realized, potentially undermining the foundations of half the city. The most disturbing discoveries involve passages that lead to chambers showing evidence of continuous occupation. These rooms contain artifacts from multiple historical periods, layered together in ways that suggest uninterrupted use from Roman times through the present day. Coins from the Byzantine Empire lie alongside medieval religious artifacts and modern electronic equipment. Food remains show evidence of meals consumed within the last few decades in chambers that were officially sealed in the 6th century. Archaeological teams have documented over 50 connection points where catacomb tunnels intersect with other underground systems. Some lead to natural caves that contain prehistoric cave paintings predating Roman civilization. Others connect to medieval sewage systems, Renaissance-era smuggling tunnels, and what appear to be World War II bunkers. The pattern suggests that Rome's underground has been continuously inhabited and expanded by groups who understood the strategic value of maintaining hidden networks beneath the city. The fifth and most troubling mystery centers on the ossuary of living bone. Deep beneath the catacomb of San Sebastiano, researchers discovered a chamber where the walls themselves appear to be constructed from human remains that show signs of recent biological activity. Bones that should have been mineralized centuries ago still contain organic compounds that respond to environmental changes. Temperature fluctuations cause the bone walls to expand and contract in rhythmic patterns that create sounds resembling breathing or heartbeats. Scientific analysis has produced results that challenge basic understanding of decomposition and preservation. Some bones show cellular activity that shouldn't be possible in remains more than 1,000 years old. Others contain DNA fragments that can still be extracted and analyzed, revealing genetic markers from populations that supposedly never lived in Rome. The chamber seems to be a biological repository that has maintained some form of life for far longer than science suggests is possible. The walls pulse with what appears to be a slow circulatory system, moving fluids through microscopic channels carved between the bones. These channels form complex networks that serve no obvious structural purpose but create patterns that resemble neural pathways or blood vessel systems. When researchers introduced tracer compounds into the system, they discovered that the entire chamber responds as a single organism, processing and distributing substances throughout the bone matrix in ways that suggest coordinated biological function. So there you have it. 5 mysteries buried beneath Rome that challenge everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. From prophetic frescoes that shouldn't exist to living bone chambers that pulse with impossible life, these discoveries remind us that history has a way of hiding its most unsettling truths in the darkest places. The next time you walk the streets of Rome, remember that beneath your feet lies a shadow city where the impossible becomes real and the past refuses to stay buried.